So welcome everyone to this 94th town hall. It's Wednesday, October 12th, 2022. And we're excited to have everyone. Let's move on to the next slide there. I am John Best, CEO, co-founder of Best Innovation Group. We also have a podcast if you want to check it out, the Big Cast with Glenn and I. Did you see this week's title, Glenn? It's like drones something and the credit card attack or something.
It's my title, and it's got a hidden pun in there too for anybody going.
I saw the hidden pun.
There's an Easter egg for everybody.
Yeah, you got to check it out. But so anyways, and with me as always, and really we need to add a third face to this, which is really Glenn. So I'm going to task Madison with that. Let's get that done. Well, there you go. That's what happens. He gets
there.
So you and I, Lawson and I, get a slide that we share, and Glenn gets a full close up. Apparently taken, I'm thinking, at a funeral home somewhere, based on the background there, or a wedding. It could be either. Michael Lawson,
yes, sir.
CU Broadcast. So awesome to have you.
Thank you.
And obviously Glenn Servati. So, and
That's
we've got a
right.
great guest today, but let's get through the sponsorships. So CUNA, it's the only national association that advocates for the entire credit union movement. The strongest advocate. We promote, support, protect, unify, and advance the credit union movement. Visit us online at www.cuna.org. I'm just going to read these. There you go. You're up, Mike.
Well, CUNA just had their CUNA Technology and Operations Member Experience Conference in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. That was a great show. Really good.
One of my favorite people was named Technologist of the Year, I think. Cynthia Schroeder from Vision.
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Very exciting.
Oh, and she's retiring. Did you know she's retiring?
Yes, well aware she's retiring. So,
oh, man.
Yep, in December.
Is she on the call?
Very bittersweet.
Yes,
Wonderful.
I'm on with you.
Oh, yay, Cynthia. Congratulations.
We're talking about her. Yeah, just like to congratulate. It's well deserved.
Yep,
I didn't realize you
you
started as a teller. That was cool.
I did. Yep.
Yeah, I
sure
sent
did.
that to Kevin Johnson because he started off as a teller as well. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Seen it all. And Correlation. Hey, if you're in the market for a new core processor, they're the folks to check out. Actually, they're having their CEO CTO conference here in San Diego tomorrow and Friday. So I'm going to be at that one, covering that tomorrow and Friday. So good folks there at Correlation with their Keystone core processing system that is built on open architecture. So you can plug and play pretty much just virtually any third-party vendor out there to it. And that's a pretty cool thing these days, since there's, fintech folks are popping up like daisies on a spring morning. So so that's a good folks there at Correlation. So if you're in the market for a new core processor, those are the folks to call. Correlationinc.com. Go check them out.
Yeah. Speaking of, one of the great things about Correlation is it's very easy to integrate to. As a matter of fact, Member Pass, which is a product that verifies your identity. Let me ask you a question, Mike. If you log into the average home banking, how many systems validate your password? Do you know?
I have no clue. No
One.
clue. Sometimes it's quite the decathlon in order to get just inside somewhere. So
yeah, but even so, it's just one system. Imagine if you could have thousands, tens of thousands of systems that all have to agree on your password, because then you couldn't just hack one system and change the password. So
true.
That's the real trick to this Member Pass piece, but people are using it very, very effectively. I was talking to the folks out in Michigan at Forefront. They love it. They use it in all these different places, and we're getting ready to hopefully to get this boiled into home banking. And it's just one way to prove your identity no matter where you go.
Yeah.
Very, very cool stuff. Very excited to have to work with the group, and we've been just doing a lot of upgrades and work with them. I'll take this next one. CU Broadcast. Let's say you're sitting around, you're bored, you want to learn more. You know where you got to go? You got to go to cubroadcast.com. You should have that bookmark. That should be the first thing that pops up when you open up your screen. No, not your work stuff, not your intranet. If you got a phone, the only thing that should be on it is CU Broadcast, because the man, I don't know, he doesn't sleep. I don't know what's wrong with him, but he shoots 62,000 interviews a week. And somehow posts almost as many of them every week, and not one of them are boring. They're all important, they're informative, and they're things that you need to know about this industry. So check him out. Plus he makes it fun, exciting, accessible. And he has a nice haircut. So I like that about him.
Thank you. We call it infotainment.
edutainment. I call it edutainment. But yeah, same
Edutainment.
thing.
Okay, do that as well.
Yeah.
Do that as well. Let's
You're
talk
up.
about the Best Innovation Group, John. What's the latest and greatest going on there? You guys are got your kind of your irons and many fires there.
Yeah. You know, I do have an announcement about this particular franchise here at the town hall.
Please.
The next one of these, God willing, and everything goes right, I will do from Saudi Arabia.
What?
And my plan is to try to do it from, you know how like when they're at CNN, they're always like out in the balcony overlooking the city.
Yeah.
Now it'll be later in the day, but still should be cool at night. But yeah, I'm headed to Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, to go to the, I told Glenn the name of it, and now I can't remember.
FII, I believe, is the name of the
Yeah,
conference.
FII, which is
What does that stand for?
it's the it's an impact on humanity. It's technology's impact on humanity that's being held there. As the world population increases, new solutions are needed to ensure sustainable life for all. You know me, I like to go to things that are different. I love all of our sites, but I really enjoy sort of getting out of our four walls, and
Right.
this is about as far out of the four walls as I can get. And so, yeah, I thought this would be interesting. So for those of you that are interested, I've been looking through who's going to be there. I have some real interest in some of this technology. I'm not looking for creating solutions. I'm looking for ingredients. I'm looking for things that are going to impact us, technologies that are going to change the future. That's what
Does this
I'm
have to
always
do with your
looking for.
robot?
Yeah, the robot certainly will be there.
Oh, cool.
We will definitely be showcasing the robot and but I'll be able to attend, and I do plan on absorbing as much as I can while I'm there.
Cool.
So, all right, well,
forward
let's
to
get
hearing all
to it.
about
We
it.
got a guest who
Yes.
we're very excited to have. We have Tommy Marshall, COO and co-founder of My Flock. And you know what I always say, Mike? First,
What's
you
that?
got to flock them, then you fleece them. That's what my dad always said. Flock them first, then fleece them. That's
Flock 'em and fleece 'em.
he even said, he used to tell me that was his legal firm, I think.
Flock 'em
Wasn't
and
that- who
fleece
was
'em?
that? Groucho Marx,
Yeah.
the firm of Flock 'em and fleece 'em, or
Or was it
Dewey
the Three
Cheatham.
Stooges?
I think it was Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe, one of those
Yeah.
things. Anyways, welcome, Tommy. He's been 25 years here, focused on the digital financial services and fintech. He helped create financial service management firm Capco, which is a huge group that did a lot of work at Accenture. He's also part of the Georgia FinTech Academy,
Yeah.
and therefore, by proximity, has to deal with Glenn. And we're sorry for that, Tommy. That's not your fault.
Oh, he's my neighbor.
Um,
He lives down the he lives
Really?
down the street from me. Oh yeah,
that's
we have
weird. So you
fintech
guys are like,
walks.
yeah, I was going to
JB,
say you have
like,
like
we
fintech
we
dog
welcome you to
walking.
join our fintech walk club.
We,
It's a club,
yeah,
so
it's
we are
club.
inviting you, and it's a trial thing. So
Very,
yes.
you have to be
Keep up.
vetted. It's an extensive application process.
In fact, Glenn
Mm.
saved my life one morning. I almost stepped on a copperhead, and if it wasn't for Glenn,
wow.
I probably wouldn't be here right now. So there's that.
Now, you know, Glenn planted that copperhead. That's one of the things he does, so he can gain your trust. I remember
that
the
also-
first time he saved me from a copperhead, which was weird because this was at a conference and it was indoors in the conference center. I'm like, how did
It's
this get in
Caesar's
my
Palace,
bed?
wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just wandering around. So I don't know.
How did that
Anyways,
get there?
I'll let you guys get
There
to
was-
it. I'm interested in hearing what's going on here. Go ahead, Glenn.
A couple. One, there was some karma going on there because I believe that was the only time anybody ever took a business call during one of the fintech. And that's exactly when the copperhead popped up. Totally coincidental. I'll also say, and Tommy, I know you and Michael have spoken before back when
Yeah.
you were.
Yeah, I was just looking at the
I am one of the 62,000 interviews, and I'm proud of it.
Well, that's just in 1 week. Right? You're one of millions.
Mm-mm.
I kid you not. He has
Sorry.
to have, Mike. How many do you have now?
Over
Oh.
5,500,
Wow.
5,500 over. Yeah.
Yeah,
Somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's a crazy number. It's a
It's
crazy,
nutty.
crazy
I can't-
number.
yeah.
But yours was the best. That's what he told me.
Yes, it
just
was.
before
Yes.
this.
Mhm.
Top rated viewed. Yes.
Yeah, that whole thing where you almost got bit by a copperhead. It would have been better if you gotten bitten by the snake. Anyways, I got to stop. Go
Tom-
ahead,
Tom-
Glenn. Let's get this rolling.
Yeah. Tommy is not just part of the Georgia FinTech Academy. He is the Georgia FinTech Academy. He was heading up a very innovative approach to really educating the next generation of FinTech people here in Georgia. But he has now moved over into, can you bring the slides back, please, Madison? I think we'll be going through some of the ones that Tommy had. But
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you ready for those ones then?
if you would, yeah. And I'll just mention that Tommy has moved into a new role. He's the co-founder of a company called MyFlock. And one of the things that was just mentioned on his bio is that he is the financial caregiver to one of his in-laws. And I think that's the key. I'll just kind of launch it off this way. His co-founder, there's 3 co-founders of MyFlock, Elizabeth Clubb. Actually, a lot of these best ideas pop up because people perceive a need in their own lives and realize they're not the only one with this need. And Elizabeth really germinated the whole idea of MyFlock when she was providing financial guidance, caregiving, whatever you want to call it, to her aging father. And I'm just going to guess that several of us on this call are probably in a similar boat. I know I am right now as well, and Tommy's taken on that role. So it's, he's working on something that is near and dear, and he has direct responsibility for. There's a lot of activity in that space around financial, or just elder caregiving. Tommy mentioned that the AARP recently put out a study that showed that elder fraud recently doubled. Now, this is not purely a fraud-based solution, but it is certainly a way to stop fraud, but it's also a way to make sure that this group is supported.
Yeah.
I think I've said enough. Tommy, you've got a couple of slides to just kind of set a context, and then we can talk more about exactly how MyFlock addresses the issue.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. And I'm glad you brought up that elder fraud stat the AARP recently reported on. And it's an important topic I like to lead with, particularly with leaders from credit unions, because I know that every credit union leader I have talked to so far in my role has told me this is an area of a great focus with members, and one that either they're very concerned about and trying to address every day, or one they want to really try to figure out how to clamp down on. And older members are, I know, an important focus for many credit unions across the U.S. We as Americans, this longevity opportunity point is, we as Americans, I think most of us understand this, are aging. There are now 50, I see 53, 56 million Americans that are 65 and over today. That number is going to be even higher in 8 years from now. By this 2030, the estimation is there'll be 73 million adults that will be over 65. And we, those in that group, are a powerful economic force in our country. 83% of the household wealth, 56% of the spending. I would bet that those percentages will also increase over the next coming 8 years. And I know with my in-laws, Phil and Karen Ott, who I'm very involved with their kind of financial caregiving right now, they have a very strong preference to age in place. They'd like to remain in their homes or live with us, their family. And that is also, I think, an important trend that we're all either experiencing directly with people we care for in our lives, or are going to have experience with in supporting those around us. And so it's really this kind of core trend, core group that we're looking to address with what we created at MyFlock, and what we're looking to enhance and develop further as we continue to build out this business. I think the next slide is really just driving home the point around elder fraud and the size of that challenge. The low end of reporting on 2021 was 37 billion. That was from the National Council on Aging. The high end is this $114 billion number that came out of a report done by Paul Bischoff in January of this year. And now we have the AARP saying that by their stats, the number had doubled in 2021 and is only been increasing. I would bet many of you have heard stories or had members that where you've been directly exposed to an incident of elder fraud in some way, shape, or form. The I guess other thing I've learned in working with my co-founders and building out this business is that a meaningful amount of this elder fraud is inter-family. which when I first realized that, and we were very fortunate as My Flock to be an AARP innovation lab company this summer, and AARP runs an accelerator like many different organizations do to support early stage company growth, and we were very fortunate to be admitted into their program this summer. And part of that experience with AARP allowed us to do quite a bit of research with different test beds and the research avenues that they have access to. And it was through that research that I was beginning to discover kind of the different dimensions of elder fraud, and this fact that a meaningful amount of it is interfamily. And that is really important to what we're building in My Flock and how the actual product works from a functional standpoint. Because at the core, what we're trying to do is make the invisible visible, and getting more and more people involved with the aging adult, their family, caregivers, neighbors, friends, trusted people, viewing, the transactions, spend by everybody participating on the platform. And with the core belief that not only are providing a great payment product that people can use out in the world wherever Visa is accepted, and that we can have multiple account holders and sub-account holders and lots of permissions and alerts and visibility, but that by having more people engaged in being able to view what is happening by everybody involved, the belief is that if there were a bad actor to come into that in relation, the overall relationship, they would be less likely to do bad things in terms of fraudulent things because everybody's watching. So that's one kind of, I think, compelling aspect of what we've built.
So that old expression that daylight is the strongest antiseptic comes to
Yes, I like that, Glenn. You're great with these metaphors.
My marketing skills are available. I'll
Mhm.
send you an RFP.
Yes, thank you. The next slide, we're really just hitting on this kind of idea of financial caregiving. This is the role I find myself in personally with both my parents and my in-laws right now. And this is where there's a role which is in the kind of this aging space is called a family caregiver. And we're realizing that family caregivers take a variety of different forms. Some are providing health care support. Some are providing different aspects of that healthcare support. And then there are a very large, by this Merrill Lynch study, number 92% that are financial caregivers, where and that's where you're involved with either helping planning, budgeting, actually supporting, buying and selling of goods on their behalf, running to the grocery store, running to the pharmacy, and also helping just look over the accounts that they have with their wealth manager, their banker, however the aging individual is managing their financial life. Also, I guess surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly for us, 75% of family caregivers never discuss their financial role. And that creates a lot of challenges in the family dynamics. As I've been digging into just research in this space overall over the last year, there's certain countries that really take care of their aging population. Israel is an example. Japan is an example. In America, we're if you rank us overall, I don't have the rankings and whatnot, but I'd say I don't think I'm saying something controversial when I say as Americans, we could be doing a better job of how we take care of our aging folks around us.
It's interesting because I did a lot of research into this from, I don't know if Glenn shared with you the robotic stuff I've been working on, but one of its primary purposes is elder care. And it's interesting because Japan has a huge problem, not only with their elderly are living so long that it's exceeding the capability of the younger group. And you have a similar situation going on elsewhere. But what's fascinating to me And something that I don't see in the slide, so it's just something to throw out there.
Yeah.
Those countries, the idea of a senior living home is non-existent. It
Mhm.
is, India is another example, largest population there is,
Mhm.
next to China, and the idea of this idea of a home where you sort
Yeah.
of put them and not involved in their lives is something that's just an anathema to their
Yeah.
culture. And so that cultural portion of it is very interesting. So yeah, I think you're
It's a
onto
great
something there
point.
for
I
sure.
know, like my next door neighbors, I live in Glenn's neighborhood. My next door neighbors are Indian Americans. They're researchers at Winship Cancer Center over at Emory. And they have their aging adult family members living with them. And I got at least 3 or 4 different Indian American family friends, and they're multi-generational in the same house. And then it's also just the same. I know in my just neighborhood in Atlanta, we've got some really close Chinese American friends. They're also researchers at Emory. Same deal. They've got multi-generation living in the same home. So that, I guess, doesn't surprise me to hear you say that. Talking about money is not something I think we generally do well with aging people in our families and around us. And with MyFlock, we've got a product that's a payment expense platform that we've created to really take some of this friction out of financial caregiving. And then it's our hope as we continue to build this company and get more and more people involved with it, that the platform will also help enable more conversation amongst family members around money. And that's really part of our mission and vision as we continue to build the business. Because as you can see with these stats, like, you know, it's expensive to be a financial caregiver to a family. This $7,200 is like just out of pocket money people are spending a year of their own money, not mom or dad's money, to provide support. And then there's this wellness impact that we're very interested in as a company with MyFlock, and we're starting to apply for some grants with the National Institutes on Aging around the impact, just detrimental kind of health impact that comes from anxiety and stress, either of not just of the aging adult, of people like me, stress on me and trying to provide
Yeah, the provider.
better support and emotional support and real kind of support to my parents, my in-laws. And I know that's been the case for me personally. I know it was the case for my co-founder, Elizabeth, as she was caring for her aging dad. She lived in Atlanta. She was the financial caregiver for her dad, who had Parkinson's and wanted to age in place in New York City. And she just really, it created a lot of stress for her, worried about him getting, and he was constantly worried about doing the wrong thing, being a victim of fraud. And so then just her seeing him in stress created stress for her too personally. So anecdotally, I think we can all appreciate that is a real issue that can be addressed, and something we're trying to address with what we built here at MyFlock.
It's just the real-time aspect of this is kind of amazing. But literally just last night, I'm in a situation where, the fortunate piece is that my sister lives down the street from my father, who's declined pretty rapidly over the course of just the last, from a cognitive standpoint, just over the last month or so. And literally, I just learned last night that she's one of these 75% that has really kind of stepped into a role of a financial caregiver. Now, that doesn't cause, at this point at least, any friction. I mean, we have a trusting relationship there, but I could certainly see that if some other people might have said, hey, well, why didn't you tell me you were doing this? And then maybe more relevant to specifically the way the platform works at MyFlock, my wife's mother was living independently. Her brother was really taking care of the financials, but she had in-home care coming in. I believe they gave a credit card. I believe they gave cash. And they kind of had the attitude of, yeah, we know they're skimming some off the top, and that's just kind of part of the cost of doing business. So I think to some extent, I think that's where your platform really starts coming in and
Yeah.
creating that trackability. Because again, the idea is you actually assign one kind of, I don't know what the term is, one primary support person, and then there's a network, the flock outside of that.
That's right. That's generally right. We've got the ability to issue up to 7 cards. And these are prepaid debit cards running on a Visa network. There's 2 account holders. One is the aging adult, and this is all their money. So they're funding it from their core DDA account at the credit union, or they're funding it from their wealth management cash account, or they're funding it with a Social Security direct deposit. I mean, there are a variety of different funding sources, that any really funding source that can land money through the ACH network. And then the aging adult is the lead. It is their money, and then they can invite into the primary account, per se, what we call an insider. So in my father-in-law's account, he's invited me to be the insider, and as the insider, I have all the same capability that he has to fund sub-accounts, take money away from sub-accounts, permission the sub-accounts, and like a variety of different ways we have to permission those accounts for visibility, alerting, restrictions by merchant category codes of like where the sub-accounts can work. And then we invite, and then he and I can invite in these sub-account holders that we don't, that's a kind of, I know, an operational term, but we call them team members. So they invite team members, and the team members can be in-home caregivers, can be neighbors, can be other family members, brothers, sisters, sons, daughters, grandchildren. Those are all different scenarios for team members. And then we have another account type that isn't issued a card, but has visibility, and that account type is called a friend. So you can invite in a friend, and the friend has view-only access to view all the transactions. So friends could also be, neighbors, friends, other family members in other parts of the country, that type of thing. So when you add it all up, there can be 12 total account members in what we call the MyFlock relationship.
So it's very transparent, so everyone
Yes.
can see what's going on. So is one of the main things here, Tommy, is to mitigate fraud? Because earlier you said a majority of it happens within the family. So
Yes.
I'm assuming fraud is a big concern here, and to mitigate that with this type of solution.
Yes, it is. And that is kind of a core part of our marketing, particularly a core part of our marketing to the adult child. So, let's get more people involved with mom or dad, and having an opportunity to support them, and just, kind of looking out for them as they're out spending their money on this card, and as they're inviting others to support them in spending their money to support them, if that makes sense. So, I mean, the way this is happening every day right now is somebody's coming into the home, or the neighbor's helping out, or the caregiver's coming in, and they're like, hey, will you go buy my groceries? Yes, I will. Here's $100 bill. And, I think more times, I mean, I believe in the best in people. So I'm sure a lot of the time people are doing the right thing. They're going to the store, they're paying with cash, they're bringing the change back, they're counting out every penny. But there's probably a lot of circumstances where you just don't know. And you could be like, they're doing the right thing, but you don't know. And so maybe some doubt seeps in.
That's the issue is, when it's not family and other family members suspect the neighbor. And that creates, you lose a source of care for that person, because eventually that person's like, I love her, or I love him, or he or she, I want to help them, but it's not worth the derisiveness in the family. It's not worth the suspicion.
Exactly.
I think that's really interesting, and it's certainly an issue in creating a process in a way where there's transparency. It kind of smacks of sort of a little bit of kind of crypto, right? This sort of ledger that everyone can see, that proves to everyone else that it's accountability, but it's also it also can show kind of hey, where'd mom's money go? Where'd dad's money
Right.
go?
Hmm.
Question I
You're
have
right.
is,
You're right. I hadn't thought about. You're absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, we don't have any blockchain technology anywhere around this, but that kind of open ledger, everybody could see and validate, is an aspect of this. Now, I guess the thing I want to call out is like, we have the functionality and we do offer this up. You can open it up with all that level of visibility, but empowerment of the aging adult is core to our mission. And that means that person can decide to lock this thing down so that nobody can see anything. I mean, it is a decision that we are leaving up to the aging adult. And then if they've invited in this insider role, this trusted role, for them to be making together.
yeah, I think that's,
I was going to say, John, to your question, I'm trying to recall if it's Minnesota or Maine. It may be both, but one of the credit union leagues actually took on as one of their core kind of initiatives. I look at training folks to actually identify elder abuse, so the tellers could be kind of frontline.
Yeah.
support. So
Yep,
when
I
you
do
think
remember
about
that,
the
yeah.
possibility of where this comes up on the radar, this would be, and again, we know that the population.
Well, Glenn,
numbers are trained.
AARP created a program called Bank Safe, and that may be what you might be thinking of. So, in the Bank Safe program from AARP is about training frontline to be able to recognize something could be fishy here, something could be going on. There could be an elder fraud kind of circumstance happening, and the training of the tellers, call center representatives, other frontline people that are having an opportunity to engage with the aging adult in their financial lives.
I got to go back
Well,
and
and you
check
know
it.
what's
They may have
fascinating
leveraged
about-
that, but yeah, that sounds familiar. Exactly.
So what's fascinating about this product and why I think it's such a great fit for the credit unions is, one, like it or not, the credit union space, and we've been trying hard to reduce that that average age, but the average age is always sort of overwhelmed by a good amount. If you look at just average age, it's one thing, but if you look at sort of asset holdings across the entire the entire credit union, you'll find that a lot of the wealth that creates the assets is coming from seniors who were really devout members of the credit union space. But then the challenge is have we done a good job as organizations in retaining that family membership, which was always supposed to be part of the credo of the credit union world, the idea that once a member, always a member, and any member of your family, regardless of whether or not they were part,
Right.
they worked at the factory you did. So it seems like there's also, from a financial inclusion perspective, some value of this to a credit union to say, hey, this brings them into the platform and the services if this is provided by the credit union, if it's white labeled. And I'm interested in that aspect of it. I'd like to know, like, how does a credit union implement this? Because I do think, what does that look like in practice?
When in the discussion, so we've met with, let me think about this right now. We've met, I think, directly with leadership from leadership level, about 7 credit unions. And to date, this has been like in the last three months or so. And all are, and we're in dialogue, and this of course is a question that comes up. And I'd say just so you can dimension the credit unions we've been talking to, they've all been in kind of a 50,000 member to around 300, 400,000 member size in membership. The question one is, could we pilot and do a referral of certain members to MyFlock as kind of MyFlock standalone to test out the kind of messaging, uptake, engagement, things like that. That's been an interesting kind of proposition of step one. Knowing that if there is engagement and it's resonating with the membership that they're looking to target in the pilot, that we would then bring it into either a co-branded or a white labeled experience. So
Mm.
the credit union's brand is front and center. They're taking advantage of our functionality. Their brand would likely be on the plastic itself that's getting issued, but we're still right now in the life of our business, we're still in the position where we're the issuer of the debit card. So I guess in business terms, that interchange is coming to us. And then we negotiate with the credit union, like how we want to manage the subscription fee that kind of powers our revenue model.
Gotcha.
And so that kind of differs in conversation.
And that card has that kind of open ledger. Because here's a situation I ran into just recently with my own mother, who is now 76. So my mother, and this is where I thought, and I always have ideas to like add to your product. I'm sure everybody tells you that, but I'm just thinking out loud as I go along. So my mother recently was prescribed, hey, you need to have oxygen. So, and of course, the insurance gave her one of the big giant silver bottles and the golf cart thing, you know, like you ever not get a cart at the golf cart and you're given this like wheelie thing that it's the same thing. You put this in, and my mom just didn't like carrying it around, and her friends all have this little compact thing that is like brings oxygen. I guess it just you have to recharge it now and then, but it makes it, and it's like small
out
it's
of
like
the air.
size
I've
of
seen those.
yeah, it's like a size of a purse or something. It's not that big.
They're cool.
And of course, you know, she wanted one. And so I started the trip down the of insurance. She's like, my insurance says they'll pay for it. And I realized at about, you know, about midway through it that I was spending more money in my time on the insurance than this thing actually cost, which was like $2,500 or something. And I was like, I can't keep doing this every day. I have like a full-time job talking to the insurance to try to pull this through. So my question to you is there a tie-in? It just seems like so much with the senior care is related to insurance and those sorts of bills, and it's hard for them to sort it out. And is there any tie-in to that sort of thing? It seems like screen scraping or something like that. At some point, this idea of a bill pay or something that could pull that together would be pretty valuable.
We've gotten, I like where your head's going. So in one way, kind of, yes, we're getting into some great conversations with hospital systems that have hospital to home care is kind of a core part of their hospital system or their strategy. And we're starting to realize that like kind of all the big hospital systems are really starting, when they think about growth in their business and like where they strategically need to be, that a hospital to home offering is an important aspect. And that has like, it's multifaceted. So it's not just the hospital system personnel going into the home. They are doing that, but then they're also adding in and trying to support multi-care providers of different shapes and sizes and types that exist in a community, and then are kind of woven together in a tapestry of care that the hospital system may not have full control over, but they kind of, everybody's in that network and they're like stitching the right care together for the family. And so the hospital, in the hospital care model today, they want to make sure they've got a payment aspect to not only make sure they're getting paid in a timely manner and not, you know, forgotten about for months and months because the bill is sitting on a desk somewhere and kind of forgotten about. And so there's that kind of speed of payment acceptance that the hospital to care network system is after. But then they're also after a way that would be easy for them to make sure these other third parties that they're involved with are also accepting, so that the individual receiving the care, where they do have to have payments that are outside of insurance, you know, it's all easy and everybody, and there's some degree of visibility, or, you know, it's kind of a thing they can offer. So it's not closed loop. It's not building a closed loop network, but it's kind of like that.
But it's sort of, but it's creating some visibility into that, because, you know, I just posted, you should take a look at it before you go. So one of our partners is TruePace Community Care, which is out in Boulder. And one of the things that's fascinating about the head doctor there, it turns out that if you are allowed to stay safely at home as a senior, then your life expectancy can be up to 10 to 15 years longer
That's right.
than if you sort of put them in a home. It's not necessarily, there's a lot of different types of homes. There's the assisted living home. There's the, just a home, which is basically, it's like a big cruise, but on land, like free food
Yeah.
and hanging out with your buddies
Independent
and
living.
shuffleboard. Yeah. Independent living. And then there's sort of the hospice care. And most of these organizations, they start off in that independent living. And then as patients age, they age into maybe the assisted living, and then eventually, obviously, sadly, into the hospice care. But there's a movement going on with this idea of what if there were places you could sort of, that would come get you, bring you in for the checks, but also allow you to live at home, which is what
Right.
patient care is. And the robots kind of play into that, and maybe I'll pop up a picture or something, or let Madison do it. But my thought is, from what I hear you say, it feels like a lot of this is caring for someone who's living in the current home. It sounds like your situation is like that. Like you have an elderly person who isn't necessarily at a facility, but is still in their actual home. Is that a true statement?
Yes. I mean, that's definitely a population that we're seeing a lot of resonance of this idea with.
Yeah. And so, and what I find is like the big concerns are, I knew someone who, one of the family members had convinced the elderly mother to do a reverse mortgage, and no one knew about it till they
Exactly.
died.
Yeah.
And that just, unbelievable. Because for those of you that, I'm sure they were all financial people, but for those of you that don't know, this person owned their house, and one of the younger members of the family, the lady had like grandkids and lots of kids and stuff, and she had owned the place forever, convinced her to reverse mortgage the house, and basically took the money to pay off their college debt.
Gosh.
And then when she passed, everybody thought the home was free and clear, and
Right.
that asset wasn't. So it seems like there's other options like credit report checks and things too that you could add into this, that would be sort of, that could alert the flock. Like, had someone pointed out that, like, hey, there's been a hit on Nana's credit report, then someone could have said, well, what's this about? And if someone had noticed a new mortgage on their credit report. So it feels like the credit report could be another sort of canary in the coal mine for some of this, and it really couldn't classify as abuse, because it goes back to your empowerment thing. As far as this lady was concerned, it was her house to do with, and she did it. But the problem was, she did it under no consultation from anyone else. And later on in life, before she died, she had Alzheimer's. And so was she in her right mind then when they did it? Did the family member convince them that they were her husband? Because my grandmother thought for sure I was my dad up until she died. I mean, every time I saw her. So there's like,
I think there's some great
levels and
opportunities
layers
for
of
us.
this.
Yeah. No, I think you're thinking the right way. I think those are great kind of
like
opportunities.
alerts. What you need is an alert system.
Yeah. We decided to start with payments and I think all of us understand payments is the relationship thing. And so that made good sense to us. We agree with your thoughts in terms of expansion. There's some great monitoring standalone solutions in the marketplace today for aging adults. I mean, I'll plug EverSafe, I'll plug Careful. There's some great ones. And we may find for our own strategy, we'll partner with them. We have visions around we all kind of are aware of Mint or these different aggregators. Could MyFlop be a place where aggregating, not, you'd see the visibility on the accounts that are in the MyFlop platform, but could we also have views that you'd permission other people into that would pull in these accounts that are in a variety of different places, so that you could have a holistic type of dashboard?
Actually, it'd be great to have all this under one roof. Yeah.
What's interesting on that too, and it gets to, there's just so many different stages people are in, and what's interesting that we're discovering is that in aging adults, if they're empowered, like there's some people that are like, I'm super happy to have everybody in my family and my friends kind of see what's going on with me and all these different iterations. That's like one end of the spectrum. Then there's another end of the spectrum where it's like, I don't want anybody to know how much money I have, period.
Yeah.
And so, and we want to be able to kind of meet people where they are and respect those decisions. And then we want to also help them be able to easily invite at least one person into dialogue with them about those decisions around engagement with their financial life. I think that's kind of a bit of kind of our kind of core mission. And I think that, and then there's a lot of different kind of value props or positioning of value props that are in our minds around how to enable that.
So I wonder something that you just said. So I was looking at EverSafe, and EverSafe is interesting because that other set of eyes is a disinterested third party, which maybe that's a more valuable approach in some ways. Because the problem is that as you get older and you've got all this family, and everybody believes that your nana is sitting on a pile of money, right?
Yep.
That what's the agenda is always the concern of all the family members. Whereas if you have this third party service beyond, even if it's engaged in the MyFlock to say, hey, this person doesn't stand to win or lose no matter what, so they've just got your best interest in mind.
Yeah.
There's no skin in the game. I think that's interesting. But just to throw out in another loop, the other thing that I'm seeing as we research this, and I would love to have you talk to Dr. Wenzel. They give you an excuse to come back out to Colorado. He's just like
I'm up for that.
amazing. He's the head of the place I put in there, that Pace True Care.
Yeah, Pace True
and
Care.
just understands seniors so well. But the other thing is that as we're sort of experiencing this more transient population that's doing the work from home, we're also seeing where sort of elderly folks are being, I don't want to say abandoned, but they're sort of left behind in the sense of that. So it feels like your solution does have some value in that, because there's, if you're going by an Nana's house and helping to check the mail, you might notice the statement from the bank,
Right.
But if you only get over there once every couple months because you don't live in that city anymore, whether it be because it's military, because of job, because after the pandemic, you decide you could, afford a better place to live that's in a more rural area and work from home, whatever the byproduct of that is, it does seem like there's a good use case for that in terms of the services. Are you seeing more of that as well? Is that something? I know it's something we've discussed.
Yeah, that geo-dislocated pair between the aging adult and the adult child or adult children, that zone is like very of high interest in our product. It has high interest in our product. If we can message to them, they're like, oh my God, we need this so bad.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of our challenge. We're at a stage right now where we have like 100 families on the platform. We are just pushing on every level we can to like go to market, get in front of the market.
Yeah.
So we're very much in that. We feel like our product's good, but we need to get it in more hands and really begin to understand best where this product in its current state like resonates the highest. And so far what we have discovered is like, if we can hit that type of person where it's an adult child or children geo-dislocated from mom, dad, both, and wanting and anxious because of that from a financial standpoint. And if that's where we get a lot of, whoa, this adds a lot of value to my life right now. And then I know there's other kind of variations that are not, are local, that it also see value, but that kind of geo-dislocation creates a particular level of interest.
When the other reason I looked into this so deeply was when I worked at Suncoast, which is a very big credit union out in Florida.
Yeah,
it was a teachers credit union, and for whatever reason, Like, I don't know why, but like you probably go back and still find your third grade teacher. They just live forever. There's something in the
Yeah.
water at the school. So with that in mind, I just wanted to pop up. We have a distinguished, well, many distinguished guests amongst us, but one of which is Jim Yates, who is the CEO of First Educators. Jim, is this something you're seeing some of, and you're, if you're available to talk, you're looking into services like that?
Actually, this is something that I'm personally very interested in because I'm doing it right now with my parents. In fact, they moved to Cheyenne from Nebraska or sort of to stay at home, and they don't live with me, thank God. But they can take care of themselves, but the financial aspects, and I'm taking on more and more of that, and we're certainly seeing it in our membership as well.
Yeah, and
Jim,
what's interesting is relocating like that, right? Because that's weather to weather. So, but go ahead. I'm sorry, John. Tommy.
Well, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, Jim, send me your email offline. I'll get you an enrollment link. We'd love to have you in the pilot. Jump on
Great.
in.
Okay, great.
But JB, one other thing I just want to hit on, because it's really interesting to us as well. We are writing a research grant with the National Institutes of Aging right now that I'm pretty confident we're going to get. And we're working with a researcher named Jason Karlowich out of UPenn. And this guy, he is amazing on this whole space. So he's been on Marketplace, Kai Rizdal, Dave Brancaccio, like they have him on a lot.
Oh, wow.
To talk about aging adults and financial caregiving. And he is amazing. He's written a couple books on this. And I don't personally, but my co-founder Elizabeth is getting to know him and knows him, and he's really been a great support to us. So anyway, he has a hypothesis that he's been doing research around that he's continued to test that says financial behavior is one of the first is the first human behavior to change as one begins to decline cognitively. That's his hypothesis. And so the research we're looking to get funding from National Institute of Aging is just help use our product to help further test that out in the real world.
How does it change? Is
I-
it more conservative or what's the change?
It's less, you have a certain pattern of spend. You do, Michael Lawson, every day. You have a certain pattern of spend. And if people, as they begin to go in very, very early, as they begin to go into cognitive decline, there's some material changes in that pattern of spend. And, the patterns are different somewhat for everybody, right? And so that's what we want to go in and test with the research.
Yeah.
So we would have like AB groups, certain patterns, and then know, okay, this pattern shifted, and then be able to have some health data that would say, yes, there's confirmation that there's some cognitive decline on that type of person. So there'd be this high correlation between this financial spend change and the person, knowing the person's gone into some degree of cognitive decline. So if you agree with that hypothesis and say we begin to test that out, then we are interested in adding a feature into our product, not necessarily for the aging adult or maybe for them, but certainly for the insider, that would be like a beacon score. So it would be like, hey, this based on our gajillion, our super duper widget,
Yeah,
and
our AI
algorithm,
thing.
whatever.
This is out of
Our AI
character
thing.
for you.
We've got this,
Yeah.
This score, this light's gone off. We'd
Behavior.
suggest you take a certain action
Yeah.
with a healthcare provider.
Well, I was thinking too that much like a living will, there needs to be maybe some sort of cognitive will that needs to be particularly around finances. But we got time for maybe one last thing, and I'm very interested in this. We have Kevin Sarber on. Kevin has family, and I wonder what happens when they're a lot are in this situation, just because of the nature of the age and the group. The baby boomers are the ones that are aging, but we have plenty of folks, and Glenn falls into that category where family is immigrants. So, for example, Kevin, would you mind sharing Irene's situation a little bit, if you don't mind, with her parents?
Yeah, it's another perfect example for something like this. You know, my wife's parents both are in cognitive decline, and they are Holocaust survivors from a very young age. So they're in their 80s now. But each one has kind of taken their turn at believing that they are living in the wartime, in the Holocaust time frame. And they believe that the other spouse is a soldier who's taken over the house, or a soldier who's looking to harm, especially my mother. So just a very difficult situation, and finding care. They're in Vancouver, and finding care has been a real challenge. Took us over a year to actually find someone who would come in and take care of them, and then finally found the senior living home that would take care of them. But just a very difficult situation, especially for us because of the distance. It's not easy to jump on a plane and get to Vancouver if they need something quickly. And my wife's siblings are kind of spread over Western Canada, but no one's close. And so it kind of takes some time to get there, and it's just, I'm sure the story is similar to many that are out there, but it's one that hits home for us.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. And I understand it. My mother-in-law right now, same thing. Like, she'll be with her husband of 60 years, and she thinks he's someone else. And she'll call my wife and be like, "There's a man here. I'm not sure that I should be with this man." And we're like, "Whoa." I mean, and then she'll kind of, it's really a difficult situation.
It's heartbreaking. And they're so just, they believe it so solidly, so in their heart, so deeply. What a terrible disease that just robs you of. And that's why I was thinking this cognitive will thing. I think that should be something as well, that maybe, hey, if I'm ever diagnosed with X, and I can already have this with Kevin, I figure he'll take care of me. But Kevin's the president of Big, by the way. So but this idea that you get to this point where you can't be trusted with your own finances, because now I think also what goes along with that is a certain gullibility. It would be, so for example, I read this big article and it blew my mind, and we'll have to be quick about it. But basically, when the Polish knew the Germans were coming and they were going to basically take the Jewish folks in there, these companies from America went around and sold insurance to the families in Poland that basically said, "Hey, we know you're not going to make it, but if you want your family to have money, you can buy into this insurance policy and start paying, and make sure it keeps getting paid on. And one day, if your family immigrates here, they could come get it or whatever." And there were thousands upon thousands upon thousands of these insurance policies sold that were, and the challenge is that when the Germans came through, they didn't leave any identity behind, that you could actually, it was almost like the insurance companies knew this, that were sort of guilty of this. And it's just fascinating what people will do at that age, particularly around reverse mortgages and some of these other scary financial products. And it's out of love. It's out of love. It's a grandkid. It's someone living with them. It's someone who is taking care of them. But still, there should be somebody that has that conversation. I love that you've taken this on as something to drive home. Someone needs to lead this, and it sounds like you're just the guy, despite your proximity to Glenn, who in his own way is elderly and needs help. Anyways, Tommy, where can people find out more about this? Can you post a link so that people can, and I'm sure there might be others that are interested. So
yeah, myflight.com is our
Okay.
is our site. Actually, it might be, I think sometimes you got to do the wwws. But myflight.com, that's the easy button. I'm at Tommy. I'll put my email. Just call me any time of day. I love to hear from everybody. And I'm putting my phone number in here too. Just call me.
Perfect. I'm going to introduce you to Dr. Wenzel over at Pace True Care. I think you guys, I think also having a relationship with places like that might be valuable as well.
That would be great. And we are, we'll be at Venture Tech. If anybody's going to the Circle Collective Venture Tech Frisco, I think it's November 6th, 7th. We're one of the presenting companies. We're so delighted that Nick Evans and team have included us in that event. Cannot wait. So we'll be there. And then if you're going to Money 2020, we are one of the 10 Startup Challenge companies in this year's Money 2020 in Vegas. That's in a couple weeks.
Yep.
So just let me know. Love to grab coffee, see anyone that's going to be at either of those events. And then we're just pushing as hard as we can to get this product in more people's hands out in the market. And again, credit union is a critical, high priority channel for us, and just one that makes a ton of sense for us. And if you're a credit union representative and you agree, please let me know. If you don't agree, please let me know. We're just wanting to push hard to really find a place in this community.
Love it. All right. Well, good luck on the grant, and let's check in with you. And thanks everyone for joining.
Presentation.
What a great show. Yeah, it was really good. I really appreciate your time, Tommy.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
Tom.
thanks, JB. Great to connect. Good to see you, Michael.
Good to see you as well. Lots of
right.
avenues to take this. This is really cool. Right in the credit union house for sure.
I'm going to need it soon. So sooner rather than later. So yeah, I want to get signed up now. Thanks everyone for sticking around.
Guys.